You blink awake to the gentle sound of someone vomiting in the alley. Again. Outside your windowless room, the Roman sun is already turning the air into soup. It's barely dawn, and you're sweating like a disgraced senator in front of a tribunal. You live in a 5-story insula, Rome's answer to housing 1 million people with zero architectural standards. The walls are made of crumbling plaster and broken dreams. The floor groans every time you shift your weight, like it knows it wasn't designed for this many tenants or this much hopelessness. Above you, someone's arguing about cabbage. Below you, someone's giving birth. You're wedged somewhere in the middle, sharing a 10-square-meter space with your extended family, a crate of pigeons, and an inexplicably angry dog that no one remembers acquiring. There's no toilet, no kitchen, just a ceramic pot in the corner you try not to think about, and a fire hazard you call a cooking fire when you can afford fuel. The smell is a multi-layered perfume of fish guts, rotting fruit, and body odor. Yours mostly. Someone dumped their chamber pot out the window in the middle of the night, and gravity did the rest. You're used to the stench, but your nose still twitches like it's trying to walk off your face. The streets outside are already alive, which is bad news because you haven't had anything to eat except yesterday's crust of bread and a swallow of vinegar-thin wine that tastes like betrayal. Somewhere nearby, a market vendor screams about garum, fermented fish sauce that smells like the concept of death, while a butcher hacks something that may have once been a goat. The clatter, the shouting, the heat, the flies. It's all very romantic if your idea of romance is being slapped repeatedly with a moldy sandal. You shuffle to the doorway and peer out, only to see a kid stealing an apple, a soldier relieving himself in the gutter, and 2 women having a loud, arm-waving argument about who cursed whose laundry. A rat scurries past like it's late for a meeting. You envy the rat. It seems to know where it's going. This is Rome, the eternal city. Not the version with clean white marble and golden laurel wreaths. No, this is the version they don't show on postcards. The real one. The filthy, crowded, chaotic beast where every breath is a gamble and every day starts with a prayer you didn't know you were still saying. And the best part? This is as good as it gets. Welcome home. You wake up to chaos. Not the fun kind, just the normal Roman morning madness. The roosters already announced the end of your dreams by screeching into the open sewer called your street. Someone 2 doors down is retching like they're trying to summon a demon from the depths of their intestines. You briefly wonder if it's the same guy as yesterday. Probably. He never learns. The air is thick, a hot sour soup of sweat, smoke, and last night's fish stew that someone reheated at 3 a.m. because why not? There's no pillow under your head, just a rolled-up tunic and maybe a rat nesting in it, depending on the hour. You shift slightly and the floor groans like it's filing a complaint with the gods. That's not metaphorical. These floors are wood planks slapped together with spit and hope, and you're 3 floors up in a building that would rather fall sideways than keep supporting you. You're sticky. Of course you're sticky. Your blanket, if we can call it that, is actually just an old curtain your uncle found at a bathhouse and claimed smelled mostly fine. You haven't washed it since Saturnalia 2 years ago. It now smells like betrayal and mildew with a hint of something feral. You're not even sure it's yours anymore. There's no clock to glare at, no soothing alarm tone. Time in Rome is measured in guesses and bells. You know it's morning because the sun's frying your face through a crack in the wall and someone's yelling about bread prices outside. Loudly, passionately, as if the fate of the Republic depended on whether today's loaf is moldy or extra moldy. You stretch, instantly regret it, and try not to cry as your back crackles like a collapsing aqueduct. You're 27, and your spine sounds like it's made of dried reeds. Your knees ache, your teeth throb, and your left ankle is still mad about that cobblestone from 2 weeks ago. Congratulations, you're a Roman adult now. Pain is just your default setting. You can hear your neighbors stirring, well, arguing, and a child crying. A baby starts screaming in the next unit, which is separated from yours by exactly 1 robe hanging on a clothesline. There's no privacy here. You are not alone, not ever. Your life is a group activity, whether you like it or not. You shuffle toward the door, already bracing for the day, already defeated. You step over your cousin, who's still asleep on the floor like a wine-soaked rug, and curse under your breath, because the day hasn't even started yet, and you're already exhausted. Nature calls, and in ancient Rome, nature is loud, impatient, and absolutely not discreet. There's no private bathroom waiting for you, no porcelain throne, no roll of soft paper within reach. Just the grim realization that you're about to take part in one of the least glamorous traditions of the Roman Empire, communal pooping. You make your way to the nearest latrina, which is a fancy word for a glorified stone bench with holes in it. Lots of holes. No partitions, no privacy. It's a lineup of strangers with their tunics hiked up, all doing the same thing in unison, like some sort of humiliating public choir, every note punctuated with a splash. You sit down. You don't want to, but gravity and intestinal urgency have decided for you. The stone is cold, your dignity is gone, and yes, that's your thigh pressed against someone else's because the benches were not designed with personal space in mind. You nod politely. He nods back. This is your new level of friendship. There's a groove of flowing water in front of your feet. Not for waste, that's behind you. No, this little stream is for the sponge stick. That's right, a communal stick with a communal sponge. You dip it in the running water, swirl it around like you're cleaning a paintbrush, and try not to think about how many other people have used it today. The answer is always too many. Toilet paper doesn't exist. Soap, please. If you're lucky, the water isn't downstream from a slaughterhouse. If you're unlucky, it's already colored with something you'd rather not identify. You do your business while trying not to inhale too deeply, because the smell is a mix of ammonia, human decay, and shame. And don't forget, conversation is encouraged. Romans believed in socializing, even here. So while you're trying to pretend your soul hasn't just left your body, the guy next to you is talking politics, asking about your cousin, and sharing a recipe for eel stew. Eye contact is optional, but somehow everyone insists on making it. Once you're done, there's no flush. You don't even get to pull a rope dramatically. Your contribution just stays there, floating downstream toward a city that's already drowning in its own waste. And if you think your troubles end here, remember that water might just be what you're drinking later. Rome's aqueduct system is impressive, but filters were not a thing. You stand up, brush off whatever dignity you can salvage, and exit the latrine with the dead-eyed stare of someone who's been spiritually defeated by a wet sponge on a stick. You're not cleaner, you're not refreshed, you're just emptier and slightly more broken. Welcome to Roman hygiene. You crawl back from the public latrine a changed person, emotionally scarred, spiritually hollow, and somehow still hungry. It's time for breakfast, although calling it that implies there's joy or even food involved. There isn't. What you get is less meal and more historical punishment. You sit near the dying embers of a fire someone forgot to tend last night because wood is expensive and effort is for people who haven't given up yet. Your breakfast is waiting for you. It looks like bread. It used to be bread. Now it's something harder than your outlook on life and nearly as bitter. You try to tear off a piece. It fights back. You lose. The loaf is made from barley or whatever grain was cheapest this week. It's coarse, dense, and filled with mystery particles. Sand, sawdust, regret. Could be all three. You chew slowly, because chewing too quickly might crack a tooth, and there's no dental plan in Rome. There isn't even a dentist. Just a guy with pliers and an open afternoon. To wash it down, you reach for a clay cup of sour wine. Not red, not white. Just vaguely acidic and constantly disappointed in itself. It's watered down and borderline vinegar, but it's the only thing on the menu that won't give you parasites. Immediately. Your lips pucker, your stomach grumbles in protest, and you try not to cry, again. If you're lucky, like Jupiter smiled on you lucky, there might be a handful of olives nearby, salty, wrinkled, and probably stolen. You eat them like a prisoner savoring a last meal. The oil slicks your fingers and clings to the breadcrumbs on your tunic. For a brief moment you almost feel alive. Then a pigeon steals one right out of your hand, and the moment passes. Eggs? Those are for the rich or the chickens that haven't run off yet. Cheese? Only if your neighbor owes you a favor and doesn't mind parting with his personal stash of moldy miracles. Fruit? Maybe in the summer, if you're fast and the market isn't crawling with other desperate hands. Anything resembling meat? Forget it. You'd have to be nobility, or at least pretending to be. You glance around the room, if you can call a cracked wall and a sloped floor a room, and everyone's chewing in silence. No one smiling, no one speaks. This isn't family bonding, it's mutual survival through carbohydrates. You finish your meal with a final gnaw on the bread shard, your jaw clicking in protest. Your stomach is now full in the way a sack of rocks is full. It's not satisfied, it's just weighted. This is breakfast. It doesn't energize you. It doesn't lift your mood. It just reminds you that the day is long, your life is bleak, and your next real meal might be next month if nothing goes wrong. So you stand up, brush the crumbs off your tunic, and walk into the Roman morning with nothing in your belly but bitterness and barley. Getting dressed in ancient Rome is less about self-expression and more about managing disappointment. There's no wardrobe to choose from, no flattering cuts, no soft cotton caressing your skin. Just one tunic. One. And it smells like despair because it hasn't been washed since the last major eclipse. If you're poor, and statistically you are, your tunic is made of rough, scratchy wool. It clings in all the wrong places and does nothing to hide the fact that your body has been through some things. It's stained with wine, fish sauce, and possibly tears. You pull it over your head with the enthusiasm of someone stepping into a wet sack, and boom, you're dressed. No socks, no underwear, no dignity. Shoes. Only if you're lucky or unusually good at not stepping in human waste. Most sandals are little more than leather strips and broken promises. They flap when you walk and let every pebble, puddle, and questionable liquid make direct contact with your soul. If yours are too worn out, you just go barefoot and pretend tetanus isn't a thing. But let's say, hypothetically, you're rich. Congratulations. You have more clothing. Also, more problems. Your day starts with decisions, like what shade of off-white toga says, "I'm important," without screaming, "I'm trying too hard." Togas aren't everyday wear, despite what Hollywood told you. They're official, ceremonial, and an absolute disaster to put on. Imagine wrapping yourself in 20 feet of itchy wool while trying not to trip or flash someone. It's a fashion burrito with zero comfort. There's no stretch, no give, and once it's on, you can't do basic things like run, fight, or use your arms like a normal person. Sitting is a gamble. Going to the bathroom? Not worth the effort. Also, togas come with expectations. White for citizens, purple stripes for senators, solid purple if you're the emperor, assuming you didn't wake up dead that day. Fashion is law, and wearing the wrong toga can get you fined, mocked, or mysteriously stabbed in a bathhouse. So no pressure. Underneath it all, still a tunic, still itchy, still covered in sweat and lies. Bathing doesn't happen daily, or even weekly, so by the time you're layered up and ready for the public eye, you're a walking oven of body odor and political anxiety. But at least you look powerful, or miserable. Honestly, same thing. You tighten your belt, literally, not metaphorically, and glance at your reflection in a bronze mirror that distorts your face just enough to be insulting. Whether rich or poor, this is your look for the day. Not because it's stylish, because it's what you have. You step outside, your tunic clinging, your sandals slapping, your toga dragging like a woolen corpse behind you. Welcome to Roman fashion. You're not comfortable, you're just clothed, sort of. You step out into the blinding Roman daylight and immediately remember, this isn't a life. It's a grindstone that never stops turning. You're not walking to your dream job, you're marching to survival. In Rome, you either work or you die, slowly, loudly, and probably surrounded by people who are also dying. If you're lucky, you're an artisan or a shopkeeper. If you're unlucky, and statistically you're a slave. You belong to someone else, and your job description is whatever they yell at you to do. Cleaning, hauling, grinding grain until your shoulders feel like shattered marble. No breaks, no rights, and no chance of promotion. Retirement plan? It's called death. And don't think being free makes you much better off. Most plebs work sunup to sundown just to afford stale bread and watery wine. You're a baker rising before dawn to feed people who will complain that their loaf is too chewy. Or a builder, hauling stones so heavy they make your spine whisper threats. Or maybe you're a prostitute, navigating alleyways that smell like fish guts and broken dreams, hoping for a client who doesn't smell like fermented goat. The streets are clogged with sellers shouting over one another, "Fresh garum, 3 olives for a denarius. Buy this slightly cursed idol. Markets pulse with the chaos of economic despair. If you can yell louder than the next guy, you might survive the week. If not, you can always join the gangs of kids sweeping floors for scraps or begging with strategically sad eyes. Childhood in Rome ends at can walk without falling. Congratulations, you're now part of the workforce. Even the entertainers are miserable. Gladiators, for example, are the original reality TV stars, except the prize is not dying. You're fed raw meat and trained like an animal, then tossed into the arena to fight for the amusement of drunk senators and bloodthirsty crowds. If you win, you might earn applause. If you lose, you might earn a funeral, sometimes both. And if you're born into money, congratulations, you can still work. You'll manage estates, argue in court, or sit in the Senate pretending to care about grain prices while wearing layers of wool in the summer sun. It's less about labor and more about posturing, but it's still exhausting in its own theatrical way. There's no minimum wage, no lunch break, no, sorry, I'm not feeling it today. Everyone's replaceable, everyone's struggling, and the only people not working are dead, or about to be. So you roll up your tunic, ignore your aching joints, and get to it. Because in Rome, work doesn't set you free, it just keeps you too tired to start a rebellion. You'd think the eternal city might come with a moment of peace, a quiet corner, a gentle breeze, a single breath of air that doesn't taste like charcoal and feet. But no, Rome is not subtle. It's a relentless, howling organism that never shuts up, never sleeps, and smells like something crawled into history and died. The first thing that hits you is the noise. It's not background ambiance. It's a full-on assault. Metal clanging from blacksmiths hammering away in every alley. Street vendors screaming about their cabbage, their dates, their suspiciously wet bread. Horses clop, carts rattle, and someone is always yelling about stolen chickens. Even the dogs bark like they've got something to prove. One's fighting a goat. No one's stopping it. There are no traffic rules, no sidewalks, just chaos on dirt roads that double as open sewers. You dodge a cart, trip over a drunk, and barely miss getting trampled by a senator's entourage. The wheels screech past your ankle, and the driver calls you something unprintable in Latin. You'd respond, but you're coughing too hard from the black smoke pouring out of a bakery down the street. The air is thick, not metaphorically, literally thick, with soot, dust, and whatever burned last night during one of the 10,000 fire hazards people call homes. Rome has no chimneys, just a general agreement that smoke goes wherever it wants. Your lungs? Optional. The stench changes with the wind. Sometimes fish guts, sometimes donkey sweat, sometimes something no one dares identify. You learn not to ask. And then there's the sewage. Open gutters line the streets, carrying a delightful cocktail of rainwater, animal waste, human waste, and everything Rome doesn't want anymore. It burbles, it steams, it flows past your sandals like some unholy river. If you're unlucky, and statistically you are, it splashes directly onto you, and people wonder why togas were white. Night doesn't bring silence, it brings a different kind of madness. Drunks stumble home singing songs that were probably banned for good reason. Thieves whisper in the shadows, fires crackle in poorly built tenements, and without streetlights, every corner hides either a rat or a guy with a knife. Sometimes both. The walls are thin, the windows don't close, and your neighbor's domestic drama is now your bedtime story. Rome is vibrant, yes. Alive, absolutely. But it's also a full-time sensory ambush with no off switch. You don't live in Rome, you endure it. Every sight, sound, and smell claws at you from dawn to dusk and well beyond. So if you came here expecting grandeur, glory, and quiet walks under the stars, you're about 2 centuries and a plague too early. Welcome to the real Rome. Now cover your nose and keep moving. You're sticky, you smell like yesterday's fish sauce, and your tunic has fused to your body in ways that should be illegal. Time to freshen up, right? In modern terms, that might mean a shower. In Rome, it means heading to the local bathhouse and questioning every decision that brought you to this point. Bathhouses sound elegant. Marble columns, steamy rooms, whispered gossip, like some spa resort where everyone wears sandals and togas. But in reality, it's less wellness retreat and more naked chaos meets bacterial playground. You enter the therme, and the first thing you notice is the heat. Not pleasant heat, overwhelming, nose sweating. Why is my face melting heat? The air is thick with steam, oil, and the collective musk of 50 unwashed strangers. The floors are slick, the walls are damp. Every breath tastes faintly of feet and ambition. You start with oil. Yes, oil, not soap. A guy, probably named Publius, rubs olive oil all over your skin like he's marinating you for a slow roast. Then he scrapes it off with a curved bronze blade called a strigil, along with the top layer of grime and your will to live. This isn't exfoliation, it's medieval sandpaper with extra body hair. Shed towels? Of course. They're stiff, damp, and covered in the ghosts of people you'd rather not think about. You dry yourself using what feels like a woven tablecloth that's seen more strangers than a public toilet seat. You're not cleaner, you're just slightly less shiny. You shuffle into the caldarium, the hot bath. It looks inviting until you realize it's just people's soup. No chlorine, no filters, just a communal tub of warm water, body fluids, and whatever diseases decided to show up that day. You sit next to a man with a suspicious rash. He smiles. You panic internally. Then you move to the tepidarium, the warm room. You pretend this is relaxing, but you're actually trying not to touch anything with your open skin. Finally, you cool off in the frigidarium, which sounds refreshing until the cold water slaps you like the gods disapproving of your life choices. And through it all, there's lice, always lice, in your hair, in your tunic, probably plotting something in your eyebrows. Everyone has them. It's not even gross, it's just standard. You leave the bathhouse feeling like a cleaner version of contaminated. Your skin's raw, your dignity is missing, and somehow you still kind of smell like garlic and fear. But hey, you're technically washed, at least until you step outside and immediately get splashed by a passing cart full of fermented vegetables. In ancient Rome, hygiene is a performance, not a promise. You don't bathe to be clean. You bathe to prove you're not dead yet. You've caught something. You don't know what it is, but your head's hot, your guts are making threats, and you've sneezed 5 times in a row. So, by Roman standards, you're probably dying. Time to visit the doctor, or as it turns out, a guy with questionable hygiene, a rusty scalpel, and a god complex. Roman medicine is a fascinating blend of guesswork, superstition, and things that should never go inside a body. Your diagnosis? The humors are unbalanced. Translation: something's wrong with your body's internal soup. Blood, phlegm, black bile, and yellow bile. The solution? Make less of it. Cue the bloodletting. You lie on a wooden table while a man with wine breath and 0 chill slices open your arm and lets your life slowly drip into a bowl. Does it help? No. Does it look dramatic? Absolutely. And if you're lucky, he might slap a dead pigeon on the wound to draw out the fever. This isn't medicine. This is performance art with a body count. If you're really lucky, your treatment includes mouse brains mixed with honey, because nothing says, feel better soon, like rodent paste. Or maybe he prescribes a poultice made from crushed snails, moldy bread, or herbs that smell like they were rejected by a compost pile. One whiff and you're cured, not of illness, but of ever wanting to breathe again. Don't expect painkillers. The best you're getting is wine, and even then, only if you brought it yourself. Surgery? Brutal. Instruments? Unsterilized. Anesthesia? Just try not to scream so loud you disturb the neighbors. Amputation is done with a saw and a prayer, usually more of the saw. And if medicine fails, and it will, there's always the gods. You drag your half-conscious body to a temple and offer a chicken to Asclepius, god of healing. The priest mumbles in Greek, sprinkles you with water, and gives you a charm inscribed with vaguely threatening advice like avoid strong breezes or do not eat figs after dusk. Helpful. Sometimes you're told to sleep in the temple, hoping the god will visit you in a dream and whisper the cure. You lie there all night, surrounded by other sick people, rats, and the smell of sacrificial goat. You wake up sicker. You also now have fleas. If you die, it's your fault. You didn't pray hard enough, or your birth chart was cursed, or Mercury was in retrograde, and your spleen paid the price. Roman medicine doesn't heal. It confuses, exhausts, and occasionally finishes what the illness started. So you shuffle back home, still sick, slightly bloodless, and wondering if that temple pigeon is available for a follow-up appointment. You're hungry. You imagine a feast, maybe some roasted meat, a bit of wine, something warm that doesn't look like it was scraped off a road. But this is ancient Rome, so lower those expectations and prepare your stomach for what's coming. Culinary trauma. If you're poor, and statistically you are, your menu is short and bleak. Porridge, called pulse, is the headliner. It's a sad, lukewarm sludge of boiled grains, occasionally upgraded with a sprinkle of herbs or the ghost of a vegetable. Meat? Dream on. Cheese? If the rats haven't stolen it. You might get a crust of rock-hard bread that doubles as a weapon and tastes like regret. Welcome to dining on a budget. Roman style. Water? Unsafe. Wine? Mandatory. Even children drink it, often diluted, because it's less deadly than whatever's festering in the aqueduct today. Breakfast and lunch are minimal. A few olives, some figs if you're lucky, and maybe yesterday's bread dipped in vinegar because flavor was never invited to this meal. The rich, though, they live in a different stomach universe. Their dinners are social theater disguised as dining. Courses stretch into the dozens, not because they're hungry, but because they're bored and need a reason to show off their questionable taste in both art and appetizers. Want to know what's being served at a fancy domus tonight? Try roasted peacock, jellyfish omelets, and flamingo tongues, because apparently the weirdest part of a bird is the most delicious. Stuffed dormice are a favorite too. That's right, tiny rodents rolled in honey and poppy seeds, then stuffed with minced meat like some deranged hors d'oeuvre. And everything, and I mean everything, is drowned in garum, a fermented fish sauce that smells like someone bottled a harbor accident and decided it was seasoning. It's thick, brown, salty, and they pour it on fruit, meat, vegetables, and probably their enemies. But here's the best part, the vomitorium. No, it's not a place for drunk senators to collapse. It's a space to vomit, mid-meal, so you can keep going. Not because the food was bad, though let's be honest, it probably was, but because gluttony was the point. You gorge, you purge, and then you go back for seconds. It's a buffet with intermissions of physical failure. Table manners? Optional. You eat with your hands, reclined on couches, while slaves clean up after you and occasionally fan away the smell of that one dish no one will admit was a bad idea. Meanwhile, entertainers juggle, musicians play, and someone is definitely feeding a monkey grapes. It's chaos. So whether you're choking down boiled grain on a splintered stool, or trying not to gag on lark tongues next to a guy who smells like lion cage and ambition, one thing is clear. Roman cuisine isn't about nutrition or pleasure. It's about survival or status and indigestion. Lots of indigestion. You've had a rough week. Your tunic smells like despair. Your neighbor's goat keeps screaming at 3 a.m. and your boss hasn't paid you in 2 loaves and a fig. You need a break, some fun, so you head to the Colosseum, the Roman idea of entertainment. Spoiler, it's not juggling or poetry. You arrive early because seats fill fast when the main attraction is death. The Colosseum looms ahead, massive and magnificent, the ancient version of a sports stadium if it was designed by someone going through a very intense, very bloody phase. Inside, 50,000 spectators are crammed into stone seats, sweating under the sun and screaming for blood like it's happy hour. You find your spot, nosebleed section naturally, unless you're a senator or emperor. They get front row seats, perfect for spotting arterial spray. You settle in with a handful of stale nuts and prepare to watch someone's last moments. Think of it as Rome's version of primetime television, except the actors aren't acting, and there are actual lions. It starts with warm-ups, not aerobics, executions. Criminals, prisoners of war, and anyone the state felt cranky about are tossed into the arena. They're armed with whatever's lying around. A stick, a broken broom, sometimes nothing. Then enter the wild animals, lions, leopards, bears, and whatever else the empire dragged in from places it conquered. The crowd loves it. It's loud, savage, and smells like sweat and fear. Next up, the gladiators, the main event. These aren't all slaves. Some are volunteers hoping for glory and maybe a little prize money. Most are men, some are women, all are desperate. The crowd roars as the fighters enter, each dressed like a murderous cosplay character with armor that's more decorative than helpful. They fight with swords, tridents, nets, and occasionally flaming sticks because subtlety died centuries ago. And when someone falls, bloody, broken, begging, the real drama begins. The emperor or the crowd decides, live or die. A thumbs up doesn't mean mercy, it might mean kill him harder. It depends on the day, the mood, and how entertaining your death promises to be. Sometimes they flood the arena for naval battles. Yes, they literally turn it into a lake and have ships fight inside. Why? Because Rome could. Other days it's reenactments of famous battles with real casualties. Imagine a war movie where all the extras actually die. That's your afternoon matinee. It's hot, it's loud, it's carnage on a schedule, but people cheer like it's comedy hour. For Romans, this is catharsis, politics, and distraction all rolled into one. Bread and circuses. You're hungry, but you've got the circus. So you leave, maybe a little queasy, maybe a little sunburned, and definitely aware that the only thing more terrifying than the arena is how much everyone enjoyed it. You stumble into your bedroom after a long day of watching executions and dodging chamber pots. You dream of some candlelit peace, maybe a cuddle, maybe even love. Sorry, this is Rome, where bedrooms are for politics, property, and maybe some very awkward grunting. Let's start with relationships. Forget romance. This isn't a rom-com, it's a legal contract with bad lighting. Marriages are arranged before puberty hits, often to unite families, secure alliances, or consolidate wealth. Love doesn't enter the equation unless you're referring to the kind between a senator and his slave boy, and even that's mostly one-sided. For women, marriage means becoming someone's legally sanctioned possession. Your job, produce sons, stay quiet, and never be seen eating grapes too seductively or talking to a man who isn't your husband. You can't vote. You can't own property without a legal guardian, and your entire worth is measured in dowries and how little scandal you generate. You're basically livestock in a nice tunic. Men, on the other hand, get options. Wives at home, mistresses on the side, and slaves for whatever impulse strikes them at 2 a.m. Fidelity? That's for losers. A powerful Roman man is expected to indulge, so long as it's discreet and doesn't threaten his reputation. Affairs with women are shrugged off. Affairs with other men's wives, dangerous. Affairs with slaves, fair game, morally awful, but very common. And don't get excited about privacy. You think the walls are thin today? Roman homes are echo chambers with curtain partitions. If you're lucky, your mother-in-law isn't sleeping in the same room. If you're rich, you might get a separate chamber, but your slaves still stand in the corner silently, pretending not to judge your performance. Spoiler, they're absolutely judging your performance. Sex is power, literally. It's about status and control, not connection. The rules are simple. The person on top has more power. If you're a man with social standing, you're expected to dominate. If you're not, well, good luck explaining that to your peers without becoming a joke carved into a bathhouse wall. And if a woman dares to enjoy herself, scandal. A man can boast about his conquests. A woman can be divorced for having the wrong expression during sex. Public shame is always just one rumor away. You can be exiled for immorality, which might mean anything from actual affairs to just being too witty in public. So you curl up in your itchy wool sheets beside someone you didn't choose, under the watchful eye of family members, slaves, and the judgmental gods. Love songs haven't been invented yet. Tinder is centuries away. And if your heart aches for more, tough luck. This isn't a love story. It's Rome. You wake up sneezing and immediately assume the gods are mad at you, again. Welcome to religion in ancient Rome, where faith is less about comfort and more about making sure nothing goes horribly, cosmically wrong. Forget personal salvation. This is divine damage control. First off, there's no single god. There's a committee. Jupiter, Mars, Venus, Neptune, Saturn, and dozens of others with overlapping powers and wildly specific job titles. There's a god of doors, a god of hinges, a god of mildew. If you can name it, Rome can pray to it. And if you forget to honor one of them, well, enjoy your crop failure, sudden illness, or plague. Probably all three. But the real chaos starts at home. Every Roman household comes with a built-in spiritual infestation, your lares and penates. These are your domestic gods, spiritual roommates you didn't ask for but must constantly appease. They live in a little shrine near the kitchen, which makes sense since that's where all the screaming happens. If you move house, You bring them with you. They're clingier than exes and just as vengeful. Daily life is littered with rituals. You spill wine, offer a prayer, you stub your toe, probably an omen. Birds flying in the wrong direction, cancel your travel plans. Everything means something, and that something is probably bad. Romans hire professional omen readers called augurs, whose job is to stare at birds and interpret the divine mood. If the birds fight, don't go to war. If they poop on your toga, consider changing careers. Feeling adventurous? Join a mystery cult. These are secretive, vaguely terrifying religious clubs where people chant in caves, undergo symbolic death, and maybe drink some goat blood. There's the cult of Isis, where you worship an Egyptian goddess while shivering in a linen tunic. Or Mithras, a sun god adored by soldiers that involves killing bulls in basements. No one really understands what happens inside, but people walk out looking haunted, so that's a clue. Public religion isn't better. If you're a priest, your duties include sacrificing animals, sometimes in the middle of the forum, and reading their liver like it's a divine horoscope. Don't worry about the mess. Just let the blood flow and pretend you know what the blotchy part means. Bad reading? Do another sacrifice. Keep sacrificing until the gods give up or your neighbors complain about the smell. And let's not forget the emperor. Eventually, he becomes a god too, which means you're now expected to worship a guy who just raised your taxes. Don't like it? Too bad. Sacrificing to the emperor is patriotic. Skipping it is treason, so you live your life tiptoeing around invisible rules, sacrificing chickens, muttering spells, and hoping Jupiter doesn't zap your roof. Faith in Rome isn't about love or peace. It's about survival, superstition, and keeping the universe mildly less furious with you for one more day. You want to understand Rome? Strip away the marble, the togas, the smug senators waving from their balconies. What's left underneath, sweating, bleeding, breaking, is slavery. The real engine of the empire. Rome runs on it like blood through veins, and that blood is mostly someone else's. Slaves are everywhere, in the fields, chained together, baking under the sun until their skin peels like overcooked bread. In kitchens, stoking fires, chopping vegetables, and hoping not to be beaten for sneezing near the stew. In bedrooms, pouring wine for men who think ownership includes your body. Even in classrooms, tutoring spoiled children who'll grow up to own people just like them. There is no corner of Roman life untouched by forced labor. The empire doesn't hide it, it flaunts it. How do you become a slave? Be born to the wrong mother, get kidnapped, lose a war, fail to pay your debts, or just get unlucky while walking through a port city where slave traders browse humans like ripe produce. One minute you're free, the next, you're someone's property with less legal protection than a goat. A goat, by the way, gets better treatment if it gives milk. Your daily life depends on your owner's mood. You might serve in a cushy house, learning poetry and pouring expensive wine, or you might mine silver in a mountain shaft so dark it swallows hope. Either way, your life isn't yours. You don't own your body. You don't own your name. You certainly don't get weekends. And punishment? Let's just say it makes medieval torture look like a bad spa day. A spilled drink might earn you a whipping. Trying to escape gets you branded or mutilated, if you're lucky. If you're not, you're nailed to a cross beside a road as a warning to others. Yes, crucifixion. Rome loves it. A nice public death for maximum humiliation. Some slaves do earn freedom. If they're loyal, obedient, and survive long enough, they become freedmen, which sounds nice until you realize it still means second-class citizen with a lifelong stain of used to be someone's possession. And guess what? Your former owner often stays in your life like a toxic ex with legal rights. Occasionally, the enslaved fight back. Rebellions flare. Most are crushed. But sometimes, rarely, someone like Spartacus shows up. A gladiator turned rebel who nearly brought Rome to its knees. His reward, brutal death. Thousands of his followers were crucified along the Appian Way like gruesome mile markers. Rome doesn't forgive resistance. It decorates with it. So next time you picture Rome as a shining beacon of civilization, remember the human scaffolding holding it all up, their names lost, their labor invisible, their suffering routine. Rome may have conquered the world, but it did so standing on broken backs. Slavery wasn't the exception, it was the rule, and it ruled with iron chains. The streets of ancient Rome are crowded, chaotic, and filled with the faint but constant hum of, "Please don't stab me today." Crime is everywhere. pickpockets in the forum, gangs in the alleyways, corrupt officials in togas pretending not to be criminals while actively being criminals. And if you think there's a nice, clear justice system to sort it all out, oh sweet summer plebeian, welcome to Rome, where law and order is just another performance at the Colosseum. Let's start with petty theft. Someone steals your sandals? Justice comes swift and dramatic. You catch the thief, drag them into the street, and if the mob agrees with you, congratulations, they get branded on the forehead. That's right, a literal hot iron to the face, so everyone knows they once took a pair that didn't belong to them. Petty crime, permanent consequences, lying, defamation, gossiping about the wrong senator's weirdly smooth legs, exile, not a trial, not a fine, just a very stern, pack your things, you're leaving Rome forever. Doesn't matter if it's true, doesn't matter if it was a joke. If you insult the wrong guy, you're suddenly living in a shack on the edge of the empire, eating boiled weeds and writing very bitter letters. And if you somehow annoy the emperor, maybe you looked smug during a speech or owned a horoscope that predicted bad vibes for Caesar that day, you might as well start planning your funeral. Offenses against the emperor fall under maiestas, the ancient Roman way of saying you're about to be executed for something incredibly vague. One day you're a respected philosopher, the next your head is in a basket, and your property's been auctioned off to the senator who hated your poetry. Trials, when they happen, are public circus acts. You might stand before a magistrate or even the emperor himself, who will absolutely sentence you to death between bites of lunch. Evidence? Optional, witnesses, bribed. If you're poor, you're guilty until proven richer. If you're rich, you're innocent unless you make a political mistake. In Rome, justice is less a system and more of a mood. Punishments range from the brutal to the absurd. Crucifixion, public flogging, being thrown off a cliff, being sewn into a sack with a monkey and a snake and then drowned in a river. Yes, that was an actual thing. And if you're a slave, the punishment isn't just for you. If you kill your master, every slave in the household dies, even the ones who were too busy scrubbing floors to notice the murder. Fairness? Never heard of her. Justice in Rome is theatrical, vindictive, and terrifyingly random. You could get away with murder or die for spitting near a temple. The law doesn't protect you. It watches, waits, and occasionally lunges with a dagger and a punchline. Sleep tight. So you want to be a Roman soldier. You've seen the statues, chiseled jaws, gleaming armor, heroic poses, glory, honor, maybe a parade through the forum while peasants throw flowers at your feet. Yeah, forget all that. The Roman military isn't a glory train. It's a meat grinder with sandals. First, you sign up, not because you crave honor, but because you're broke, desperate, or just made the mistake of saying sure. Near a recruitment officer, you swear an oath to the emperor, which sounds noble until you realize that means doing whatever some senile general says, including dying on command. You're now property of the state. Congratulations. Your uniform? A heavy helmet that cuts into your scalp, a chainmail shirt that smells like 10 previous owners, and a shield large enough to crush your will to live. You also carry a gladius, short and stabby, perfect for close quarters panic. Now add your pack, food, cookware, tent, weapons, and the emotional weight of your impending doom. All in, you're hauling about 40 kilograms. That's half your body weight, every day, while marching 30 miles through mud, snow, and existential dread. Training is brutal. You don't just learn to fight, you learn to suffer efficiently, digging ditches, building forts, practicing formations until your arms feel like boiled spaghetti. If you mess up, flogging. If your unit messes up, decimation. That's not a metaphor. 1 in 10 guys is beaten to death by the other 9. Team building, Roman style. Then you're shipped off to some distant corner of the empire. Germania, Britannia, Dacia, anywhere cold, wet, and filled with people who absolutely hate you. Locals don't welcome you with wine and olives. They welcome you with ambushes, poison arrows, and a solid hatred of your imperial presence. Every day is a chance to freeze, starve, or get your throat lovingly opened by a barbarian with a bone axe. And the glory part? Mostly surviving long enough to watch your friends bleed out while you hold your intestines in. If you do survive, 25 years later, you get land, maybe. If the empire isn't broke, or if your commander didn't lose the paperwork, what you definitely get is chronic pain, haunting memories, and maybe a limp. Parades? Rare statues, only if you die in a particularly dramatic way. Otherwise, you're just one of 1,000 nameless soldiers buried in a ditch outside a fort you don't remember the name of. Glory was a marketing campaign. What you signed up for was sweat, blood, and the occasional bath in a freezing river between skirmishes. In the end, the Roman military doesn't make heroes, it makes survivors. Scarred, exhausted, expendable survivors who once believed a soldier's life was noble, until they spent 2 winters digging latrines in Gaul. The empire is crumbling, but quietly. Like a building with termites, the outside still looks impressive, but inside, everything's hollow, rotting, and seconds from collapse. Welcome to the daily reality of Roman citizens trying to live normal lives while their entire world slowly implodes in the background. You wake up to rumors, a new barbarian tribe crossing the Rhine, another general declaring himself emperor, again. That makes what? 4 emperors this month? 5, if you count the one who ruled for 6 days before getting poisoned by his own cook. Stability? That's for dreams. In real life, the Senate's useless, the emperor's paranoid, and the army might be loyal to him, unless someone else offers them better wine. Corruption isn't a side effect, it's the operating system. Bribes are expected, taxes are suffocating. Bureaucrats will absolutely lose your land deed unless your handshake comes with a sack of coins. If you're rich, this is called business. If you're poor, this is called starving quietly. Inflation is so bad your coins are basically fancy rocks now. What used to buy a month's worth of grain now gets you a suspicious loaf of bread and a pat on the head. You want to complain? Good luck. Half the city spies on the other half, and the moment you question anything, someone reports you for sedition, and boom, you're arrested for treason because you look sad near a statue of the emperor. Meanwhile, roads fall apart, aqueducts stop working, grain shipments don't arrive, the baths are closed because no one fixed the cracked pipes. The arena still runs, of course. Distractions are state-sponsored. Bread and circuses, except there's no bread, and the circuses are increasingly just public executions labeled theater. Outside the walls, everything's worse. Entire provinces are collapsing. Goths are raiding. Huns are approaching like an apocalyptic drumbeat, and Roman legions are stretched thinner than your last nerve. Some border towns have given up entirely, just renamed themselves, started speaking Gothic, and hoped no one noticed. But inside the empire, everyone's pretending it's fine. Wine still flows at the parties. Senators still make dramatic speeches about virtue while their estates burn in the distance. You, meanwhile, are just trying to keep your head down, avoid the tax collector, and pray the city doesn't catch fire again. The fall of Rome isn't a bang, it's a groan, a long drawn-out sigh as everything slips sideways while everyone insists it's all under control. It's like living in a house where the roof is collapsing, the floor is lava, and someone keeps assuring you that it's just a phase. So yeah, you thought your job was unstable. At least it doesn't involve watching the greatest empire in history collapse in slow, exhausting, painfully bureaucratic real time. Welcome to Rome. Good luck making it to Friday. Congratulations, you died. Don't take it personally. Everyone does. But in ancient Rome, death isn't peaceful. It's abrupt, disgusting, and usually humiliating. You don't get violins and candlelight. You get a fever, a stabbing, or a suspiciously bad batch of olives. There are options, of course. You could catch one of the many delightful plagues sweeping the empire. Maybe Antonine, maybe Cyprian. Doesn't matter. They all come with high fevers, mysterious boils, and the bonus feature of watching your neighbors drop like flies while priests chant vaguely hopeful things. You could also die from a simple cut, get a scrape on your leg, skip the goat fat ointment, and boom, sepsis. There's no antibiotics, no ER, just a friend fanning you while you slowly roast in your own sweat and regret. Or maybe you get poisoned. It's trendy, especially if you're rich, powerful, or dating someone who wants your inheritance. Romans loved a good poisoning. Quick, subtle, and great for family reunions. Sometimes it's wine laced with something exotic. Sometimes it's just someone staring at you too hard at dinner. Either way, you're clutching your stomach and making peace with the gods before dessert. Swords are another classic. Get mugged in an alley, step into the wrong tavern, upset a gladiator, or better yet, get conscripted, shipped off to some freezing battlefield, and die screaming in a trench while someone yells orders in bad Latin. Dying for the glory of Rome sounds noble until you realize Rome won't remember your name and your body's being eaten by wolves. But the real MVP of Roman death? Sewage. Rome is a city of filth. The streets run with waste. Water sources are questionable at best, apocalyptic at worst. One bad sip from a public fountain and your insides declare war. Dysentery doesn't knock. It kicks the door down and redecorates your intestines in a week-long performance of agony. Once you're gone, your body gets whatever treatment your wallet can still afford. If you're wealthy, maybe a funeral pyre with some crying actors and a poetic eulogy no one means. If you're poor, you're dumped in a pit outside the city walls, shoved between a dead beggar and a dog, and covered with just enough dirt to keep the flies from organizing a feast. No heaven, no closure, just oblivion or, if you're lucky, a crumb of memory carved into a worn stone somewhere no one visits. But hey, at least you contributed to history as fertilizer. In the end, your grand Roman life ends like your morning began, in discomfort, surrounded by strangers, and probably smelling terrible. You are now officially a part of the past, a cautionary tale, a dusty footnote in the long chaotic saga of a civilization that once ruled the world and couldn't even keep its drains clean. Rest in chaos.